experience with weapons. When you have no golf time in your hands, you do certain things. We always want to learn that way, right? Because that's the perfect methodology, right? If our hands, right, are holding a thing that has big golf on it, when you know how it's supposed to feel and how it's supposed to work, you can practice with hands golf's off. Then you understand what you're going, the pros and cons of golf, right? So if you want to circle over here a little bit, I think you guys will be looking this way, it won't be in the sun. If you need to sit down or want to sit down, you're more than welcome to do that. If you do grab chairs, you're going to be, standing up and sitting down quite a bit. I probably won't sit down too much today, this time of nature. You're certainly welcome to do that. If you need to take a break, I do have some breaks built into the schedule. But if you need to take a break for any obvious reasons or any unobvious reasons, please just go on your own volition. So I'd like to thank Amy and David for helping me find this site. I was supposed to teach this class at the St. Louis Longsword Symposium, and the site got kind of messed up. So this is actually really cool to be here, and frankly a little closer. But just a little bit of brief history here on me, just so that you all know this or have heard this. If you don't know this, I started my martial art career in the SCA in 1984. From the viewpoint of longswords and other hand and a half or two-handed weapons, I learned SCA hand and a half or bastard sword, like we used to call it back in the day. Did that for quite a while. In my career, around 94, I got into Kendo and Iaido, so I'm a black belt in Kendo. I'm not in shape to be a black belt anymore, so it's still up here, right? So a lot of my techniques, a lot of my background that I'm feeding into my school for longsword kind of comes from that history. But then after the Kendo and the Iaido experiences, which I still do some in Iaido, but Duke started teaching me longsword, mostly from the Fiore school. And I did that probably starting around 2000. I'll probably just after the first ring, about 2010, something like that. And then when the pandemic hit, had a lot of time to think and a lot of time to do, shadow pelt work and all those kind of things. And some of you guys are probably aware of all my videos that I've thrown at the interwebs all the time. Not so much now, more time in the pandemic. But that's kind of just my background, where my experiences have come from for the longsword style. I'm just recently now gotten into cut and thrust a little bit. I got my 7 Embers longsword. I didn't start doing CNT longsword until just about 6 months ago, because I still had some things in my head that I wanted to make sure I formalized adequately and properly for what I'm calling my rattan waster, weapons, right? So anyway, the name of my school for longsword I'm calling Mailfechten. Okay, I know you guys have probably heard that, other than you've seen it on the event page or something. Okay, so I was trying to determine, what to kind of call, my school, right? Because everybody likes to have a name for something, and I'm really bad at liking that too. But so there's Mailfechten, right? Does everybody understand what Mailfechten is?
No.
Okay. So Mailfechten is basically unarmored longsword fighting style that was really fundamentally, formally started by the Meyer and the Rozzo masters in the mid 16th century, 1540s, 50s, 60s, that kind of time frame. Now they were, all of their techniques and all their experiences and information that was coming from the previous masters, okay? But from my understanding, blouse, right? Unarmored, shirt, fechten, fight, right? It was a style developed from a formal HEMA school methodology in today's modern world, okay? All right. And it's important to understand that because there's the HEMA, Blausfechten, and all the guys trying to interpret all these different masters from the 15th and 16th century, and then you know, they have all their different schools, just like you know, the karate and the taekwondo schools, you know, all over the United States, right? But it basically, Meyer was developing it and using it from my reading, my research, as a method to keep the civilian population who wanted to, you know, join the gym, the school, if you will, and the soldiers fit, to keep them or to teach them how to use a longsword that was not. Did anybody bring a fetter, a true fetter today? No. Okay. So I had this. This is a Castile blade, and then I kind of have all this custom stuff with me from like ancient time. But this isn't like a true fetter. A fetter is the one where it kind of has the little kind of funky little guard, a knuckle bow up here, kind of goes like this, then comes down with a little narrower blade. Okay, that sort of was designed, from my understanding, by Meyer, and it was designed kind of like in the same vein as a shinai. A shinai is the kendo sword. It's designed as a practice longsword weapon, right? A sparring practice longsword weapon, not a battlefield technique weapon. Okay, in the mid 15th century, excuse me, in the mid 16th century, 1550s forward, there wasn't a lot of battlefield use of long swords anymore. Okay. There was some great sword stuff, you know, for sure. Right? Some of the Lanskinecks were still using, you know, great swords. Sergeants and corporals and some of the ranking soldiers in the different pike and shot units were using poles and the great swords, but not really something like this, nor, frankly, something like this. Right? This is my Lichtenauer Albion that I used. I forgot to say that part of my experience was steel brigade combat too, with full 14th century armor. But this is more of the, you know, the Fiore and Lichtenauer weapon of the day. Okay. So Blausfechten, unarmored combat techniques that were, frankly, in my research, but also my opinion, they were more of a sport school to do what I just was saying earlier, and keep people in shape, keep people aware of the speed and the moments, and you know, certainly the techniques as well. But Blausfechten is the way I like to describe Blausfechten, and Blausfechten is a good form. Don't get me wrong. Blausfechten is kind of like what we do in C&T in the SCA, because we're touch convention, right? And fundamentally, Meyer was doing touch convention too. I don't think I've read too much about what they were putting on. A fair amount of armor. I mean, you look at the HEMA guys at tournaments. You know, they're wearing armor. It's not the armor we wear, but it's some good protection. And rightly so, because they start swinging pretty hard. Right? But Longsword was more, I believe, we're here and it's first touch. It's first blood, right? So a lot more range. How do I use the weapon with good control of center? I don't want to lose that center because that's that quick thrust or that quick little snap. Those kind of things. That's Longsword. Okay. Then there's harness fecting, right? Everybody know what harness fecting is?
That's ours.
Huh?
That's ours.
That's full armor, right? So those are 14th century and 15th century battlefield techniques, especially 15th century when all the white harness was being worn especially by the nobles. And by the way, just something that I like to make sure that everybody understands about harness fecting is the knight lord of the day who went out in the battlefield at Agincourt was trained in some of the half-swording, harness fecting techniques, 100%, right? But that doesn't mean he used them against an archer, right? Or somebody who was wearing some partial plate, right? Because harness fecting is a style that's very core-a-core. It's very close. It involves a lot of grappling. It involves short range. It involves striking with pommels and trying to get a quillin into a guy's eye slot or drive it into something to mess up his armor so he can't move. Those kind of things. All the thrusts in the groins and underarms and all that stuff, right? So you guys know all that stuff, right? But there were techniques that I'm sure that they were being taught and using this way, right? That you don't use in the harness fecting schools or the tournaments because it wouldn't do anything. And frankly, it wouldn't do anything, right? So I'm Mailfechten. I'm in between the unarmored and the fully plate armored, okay? So Mailfechten, wearing mail with reinforcements and a good helmet. Maybe sounds a little bit like SCA, right? Armor conventions. Right? Okay. There are many extant longswords that were bigger than this. Okay, not by much, but bigger than this one. This, as I said, this is Lincoln Island, but it's designed for around the time of Agincourt, which is just later, when they started to make the swords narrower and more for thrusting. Okay. So when you make a blade lighter, because you're going to be thrusting more with it, it doesn't have the impact to cut through mail or to crush a helmet or to, break a shoulder bone or forearm or whatever the case might be, right? But in Mailfechten, and I've got, I told you the whole story of the number. Check some of these out.
You brought us from Silver Farm?
Yeah, so
These are singles.
yeah, those. Yeah, so just kind of grab them, feel the balance, feel the weight, understand what's going on with them a little bit, and I'll keep mine over here to describe it. But the longswords of the mid-14th century, where they were using larger longswords to do battlefield damage, be effective on the battlefield, were swords in this range of size and balance. And so you're looking at 50 to 54 inches overall length. You're looking at somewhere between 11 and 12 inches of hilt. You're looking at enough pommel weight to get that balance point to, 3, 4, 5 fingers. You guys all know what that means, right?
No, tell me again. What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
The fingers?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
So
you
it's
go
all
like
the
this.
balance point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so by the way, class, if you have a question and you don't want to interrupt, and I don't mind interruptions at all, just like that, that's perfect. But if you're like, I don't want to talk about it, raise your hand, right? Either one works fine, I don't mind. Either one. The unasked question is the unanswered question that you go home with, right? I mean, it's not like you're not going to avoid answer a question. So this is what's underneath there, basically. Okay, so good heavy pommel, connected straps to the hilt, the quillins, and a nice safety lines, like they call those spears, not balls. But yeah, so Silver Thorn's my guy to make those for me. So in Mailfechten, what I'm going to teach you today is not only the style, but one of the really preeminent parts of this style. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll ask.
Good.
Why, you said 12 to 16 inches on the...
No, 11 to 12.
11 inches for the... Why?
Why?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
well,
The other question that I had, you're going to go into construction. Because, the longer the handle is, easier it is to flip the sword. And the other thing is, why balance points? Is it just preference between, like, okay, this one's like maybe here, some of them maybe a little longer? Why we go into that a little bit?
Yeah. So the longsword. So there's a guy by the name of Swordmaker on Facebook. He's art of sword making. I'm pretty sure he's Czechoslovakian. He did art.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a few more weeks, I'll have one of the kinds of swords we're talking about. I wish I would have had it to bring.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah. I got one I ordered in March. So it's some indeterminate time in the future. So he's done a lot of research on these swords he calls the Passau longswords, and they're from like 1340, 1350, 1375 kind of time frame. And they run about in the size and scale that I'm talking about here. 54 inches overall is a little long for some of those. Usually they're in like 40, 48, 49, 50 inch overall range, right, Dave? So that's just what the tang, right? Because the medieval swords, you often don't have the organic hilt, right? But you have the tang and the pommel, and that's in that range of what they were using. Okay. In my experience, anytime I want to have enough hilt length so that I can use my scissors or my snap, right, when I'm holding it like this, right? I don't need or want anything longer to get into me or to be excessive. A lot of guys in the SCA especially like the longer handles, and that's absolutely fine. The longer the handle, the more point speed, tip speed you can generate, in my experience. Yeah, like that one. So it's got a bigger hilt, shorter blade.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and that's absolutely fine. So historically, the swords that I've done some research on, based mostly on Swordmaker's studies of all the swords he's got over there, are built about like this. Yeah. So the school is, David, if you can go around and collect my swords. And by the way, I brought all these, so if you guys want to try them when we're doing, drill work and, fighting later on, you're more than welcome. I had borrowed a bunch of swords, and I don't know, I had three from my own. But, one of the preeminent techniques of Mailfechten is learning how to use the weapon with enough power that in the SCA we would be striking at about an 8 level, 8 out of 10. You can hit harder. Even with all the armor we wear, a nice solid 8 is about right. This style can be used to throw 5s and 6s and 7s, but it's designed to use the power and cutting ability of the weapon with using the body turning power of our body. Yeah, so and the school also does thrusting as well, so it's not just most of those, I think almost all of them had tips on thrust as well. Okay. So any other questions before before I proceed? Okay, great. So, the first thing I want to talk about is grip. Okay, it's how do you hold the weapon? Everybody, if you've got gloves on, take them off right now because I want to be able to see your hands. So, coming closer. So the grip is soft and flexible, but also strong. Okay. So you look at my top hand, right? And a lot of times I'll describe top hand or bottom hand, right? Or I'll say right hand high. This is right hand high. That'd be left hand high. Okay. This would be left foot forward. That'd be left foot forward. Okay, it stands on here a while. Right? So the grip is, it's not a hammer grip. It's not that. Yeah, it's that soft kind of V shape. Yeah, okay. So the forefinger, not wrapping the forefinger over. That's how you comment. Okay. Yeah. Is that on hill? On hill's good. So, you know how you fix that? Get home, put 2 pieces of leather right there. Other side, take it down, and now you have something that's more small. Yeah, even softer. Yeah. Good. So the idea is now.
Is that what they describe as a handshake grip?
I have no idea. My school, my background, I've never used a handshake grip, but basically what happens is you hold your finger, point, these fingers point and create the edge. That's the edge, right? Okay? All right, and then you just kind of grip it and hold like your shoulder. Okay? But the flexibility of that now, this is the snap of the weapon. Yeah, okay? If you've got a hammer grip, not somebody thinks that you got to use your whole arm and everything. It's like, we're going to use our arms for cutting, you know. But I also want to use that wrist action. Okay? That's the top hand. Bottom hand, I like to grip just above the bottom of the palm. Okay? And you can see that the pommels are kind of like this four-sided pyramid shape. I've got, wherever the swords went over there, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Sense stopper, pommels that allow. So the problem with this kind of pommel, right, okay, is if I want to, number one, that's uncomfortable to hold it here because it's so big. Right? Okay, number one. Number two, yeah, you can deal with that if you want to. But now if I take a block, and it hits my very well protected hand on the outside, the inside is very unhappy. Right? As opposed to the sense stopper, you know, or a flat-sided pyramid shape that doesn't really hurt, and it fits the hand better. Okay? So we go, hold the sword here. Now, the bottom hand is generally not quite as V-shaped flexible as the top, but it still also has that flexibility in it to allow that nice kind of snap, right, to work. Right? And then we put the hands together, you know, on the sword, okay? And then I want you to just do that. Right? The only time you really grip with any kind of strength is when you're hitting, or if I was blocking, right? Okay? All right? Yeah. Let's see. Go ahead and do that. Yeah. You don't let go of the fingers. Yeah, they're just very supple. I'm sorry. Yeah. Questions on that? So the next thing I want to talk about is, and by the way, this will come back up obviously when we get into cutting techniques. Okay? This is how you hold the sword. This is grip. Grip is important. If you hold it wrong or too hard, then everything else becomes harder to do. So then the next thing I want to show is what I describe as hand changes. Okay? So, okay, you're left-handed.
Mhm.
So take your left-handed longsword. Yeah, okay, right. So see how it's left hand high? Okay? So, I'm right-handed. I'm ambidextrous with longsword, but I could be here or whatever, right? But if I wanted to, an old school way of going, I want to kind of match his guard, his hand position. I kind of get out of range and I go like that, right?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I'm over here. Now if he's not paying attention to that, and of course you probably saw me do that because it was really telegraphed.
Very on
Way
purpose.
over there.
Yeah, it's very on purpose. Right, exactly. So that basically is a hand change. A hand change is taking the top hand from the right and turning it to the left, and vice versa, right? So hold your swords out like this in the grip we just described. Okay. Let go of the top hand, and then you're going to just relax. Exactly. You got to relax your bottom hand, and now you just did a change. Okay. So now let go of the top of the left hand, right? Okay. So now we're going to do it together, and we're changing our hands nice and quick and easy. Okay. So you're probably thinking, if I'm in Von Todd or hubris, right? Then that works really nice because I have gravity perfectly working vertically for me, right? If I'm in plow, right, or if I'm in ox, right, it isn't the same vectoring for gravity. Right? If I do this in plow, right, or brother, right, and I go, right?
Better be a lot faster.
Well, and so the way we still do this hand change, and this is the important part of the hand change, is I just use a little bit of velocity on the bottom hand to drive it. Okay? All right, so go ahead and do that. Yep. Yep.
Trickery.
So if I'm fighting count, and I want to change hands, and I want to do it with a little bit more subtlety, right? I go, right? Okay. So see the difference there? Okay. So this becomes a technique that's used to become advantageous tactically for yourself for that moment. Right? Okay? The 4 poisons, everybody know what the 4, have you ever heard of the 4 poisons? No? 4 poisons? Okay, 4 poisons come out of Kendo. They are fear, doubt, surprise, and hesitation. Okay? So, and so this is really important. Whatever school, whatever techniques you're using, whatever weapons forms, or whatever, the 4 poisons are first and foremost things that you do to yourself. Some of you guys know me, and I'm like, well, you gotta be, get rid of ego. You gotta be egoless, right? Okay? But the nature of the poisons are, they affect you, right? So if I come out and it's the finals and I'm fighting on Boulder, I'm like, fuck. See what I mean? Right? So now I have fear. I probably also have doubt. I might even have a little hesitation, right? I'm in my Boulder, and he's left-handed and super good too, right? I am now defeating myself. These are poisons that I'm instilling in myself.
You gave him advantage before the fight.
Huh?
You gave him advantage before the fight.
Exactly. 100%. Right. Okay? So, if I'm here, and I come in, and I change, and I do that, and he is surprised, right? Right. I've now created a poison in my opponent, right? If I'm here and I go, you know, and he kind of stiffens up and goes like that, it creates doubt or hesitation. Okay, and this is a flag. We're in the AR class just on the poisons, but the point is this is the depth of the school, of my school. Okay. So we've talked the supple, flexible grip. Okay. We've talked hand changes. Okay. That's all I want to talk about now. There's a lot more with grip we'll talk about later. I do a lot of fundamental, intermediate, and advanced kind of categorization in my teaching. Besides that, I'm talking a lot of you. Any questions about grip before we move on?
Oh, just an admin. I'm asking for a friend. We get a couple minutes to like write down some of this stuff because I'm not going to remember if I don't jot down some notes.
So, no, but here's why.
Okay.
Because I'm going to have a handout that's going to be available.
Okay.
Okay? And if, now, any handout that you know you get isn't in your written word, right?
Right, but like the 4 poisons, that first time I've heard it,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be like, you know the 4 poisons, he's going to go like,
Okay, well, you know what? That's not going to be in my handout, so go ahead and write that down real quick. I want you to, because it is really important. Okay. Huh?
Just not hurt.
There's a video.
Don't look at me.
Got it.
They're not the old school like me. I'm like, well, I got notes.
Yeah.
You know,
I love
video. That means I have to watch it.
They're fixing those later instead of now.
Yeah. I mean, okay, where's that note?
You do.
It's in the car. It's also the wrong time sort for this class.
It's funny.
Yeah, so, oh, he's back.
We're talking about it.
So the next thing I want to talk about is, so in my school, we use the term stance. Right? Everybody knows what stance is, right? It's basically, stance generally is footwork, what the feet are doing to start, what the shield or weapons are doing to start, right? Stance is the whole thing, right? You can also say go on guard. That's also kind of the same idea, right? But for right now, I just want to teach what the feet do to start. So stance, okay? So, oh, by the way, I've also done a lot of fencing and some saber and other stuff like that too, right? So I'm going to show you, and then you're going to do it, okay? So I'm right-handed, so when I fence, my fencing style is very traditional, right? I'm going to be here, or I'm going to be here, right? Okay. So let's see the feet, right? So when I'm fighting right-handed, right hand high, or left hand high, or left foot forward, right foot forward, it doesn't matter, because see how the feet are here? Turn over to here, go to here. Okay. Okay. So how do we do that? So fundamentally, if you're trying to remember the stance, it's fencing, traditional fencing footwork stance. Okay. So the way we're going to do that, so that everybody more easily understands it, is, so I just right now I want everybody to pretend they're right-handed. Okay? So turn to your right. Yeah. Did you turn left, David?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Hey, okay, rude. Okay, so now I want you to look to your left, so we're all looking at each other, right? And then I want your left foot to put the heel of your left foot into the arch-ish of your right foot. And it can be kind of a little closer to whatever's comfortable. a little closer to the heel, a little bit more in the arch, not really too much forward, but yeah, like that, okay? And then we're going to just kind of step forward and then drop into kind of a centered lower kind of stance, okay? The best way to define if you're deep enough in your guard, in your stance, deep meaning low into it, okay, is, see this lower leg? That should be perpendicular to the ground, right? So if I haven't stepped far enough because I don't have the quads or the thigh muscles to support that very well, people generally do this, right? Okay. So now see the angle, okay? There's nothing generally wrong with this, it just means it's not perfect. Anything that's not perfect in a sword fighting, context means that you're, like for example, if I'm here, any low blocks are harder to make. And you could argue, well, if I'm there, I might be able to move around easier. And I wouldn't necessarily argue with that, right? But that's, so now I've asked everybody to be left-handed, so turn to the left.
The other rubber.
The other right. Put your right foot in, step out, and go to guard. Yeah. Now, so I want everybody to kind of play with the balls of their feet, right? You're on the balls of your feet 50%. And that's going to change once you start doing this, right? Okay? But now, don't hurt yourself, but now start doing rotations. This is not a technique we will be teaching, but this is an obvious awareness of your ability to balance in this guard. And I'm trying to throw myself, out of balance, right? And I don't, because I'm using the balls of my feet like, they're meant to be used, and then on my heels. By the way, you're on your heels. When I say 50-50, ball of your feet, you're using your heels, but it's not a primary support mechanism. Huh?
Not the focus.
Right, yeah, okay? So when you see me fight, I always have guys say, well, that's not how you stand, right? Right? And I say, well, yeah, you're right. There's two reasons that people might not stand that way. The first one is because their knees don't like the stress of that, especially the back one, right? Okay. So if your knee if your knees are giving you issues, just rotate that back foot a little forward. Okay. It's not like that. I'm going into, we're not going into that A-frame kind of body forward, squaring, right? And that frankly, so this goes in my guard. So see how that's in here instead of back in here? So it'll change a little bit too, okay? So the reason why we use this guard, and this is the guard I was taught about in 1984, right, for sword and shield, whatever. But that's because we're using turn to generate power. Okay. Yeah, we use some upper body muscles and some extension of arms and the snap and all that stuff, right? But it's, when I want to deliver a power punch to try to knock somebody out, I'm not doing this, right? That's not much harder than the jab. If I'm here, this is the jab. This is the explosion punch, right? Or the kick, right? So if I'm Jet Li, snap, pow, right? I'm using all that hip turn to generate that excessive power. Same reason here in the school is we're going to use our bodies to generate the power more than anything else. And don't get me wrong, we use everything to generate power, but the body is sort of the key. And it's important to remember too that the body turns. We call it body turning technique. Okay? So just to describe it, so turn, right? See that rotation, that hip rotation? And it's almost an isolation too, right? It's not leaning forward, but it's body turn. Okay? See that? Body, right? So it's offensive. By the way, it also helps keep us from getting aerobically tired too fast because we're using our core. Okay? but it's also very defensive. So Frederick steps up here, and I'm in plow. He's got a swing at my head, right? I don't just do that, right? What I'm going to do is, go ahead, turn my body to get me to where I need to be to make that block. And that's done two things. First, it's given me extra speed to do that because speed in a body turn that's small but fast, right, is quicker than trying to pull my arm over. And if I don't turn my body now and I only get to here, go ahead and pat my head lightly. Yeah, okay? Turn my body. And we'll get to this in blacks and parries, okay? But this body turn is utilizing the technique for both offense and for defense techniques. So I want everybody to pair up and we're going to do a drill. So,
Swords in hand or
swords in hand. Swords in hand. Okay, so we got big teams. So Jamie, so for right now, with your partner, take that stance, and then put your sword out to your opponent, or to your teammate, and grab it. Right. So we're here. Okay. So this is just a very physical way. You guys, everybody get a little closer. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So now, when I do a body turn, which is this back hip coming forward, I'm pushing the sword as if I'm thrusting. I'm not trying to hit anybody. This isn't who's got to win technique, right? It's bam. So see that? See how all of a sudden that's forcing us to use our body turn?
I'm taking that choice.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's a good way to do that. Just play around with that a little bit because I really want to instill how that you're dropping now. Don't drop it. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. What you were doing is as you were turning, you were rotating, twisting down and back up. Yeah. Physical. I don't think it's physical. Like it's not a physical impairment, right? It's you're just not used to using your hips that way. Right? That's all it is, right? I mean, big, strong person, you know, is yeah. Frederick's used to it, so he's a dancing sword fighting maniac.
It's the band background, really, is all it is.
That's the who?
Marching band.
Very good.
A lot of this.
Yeah. I am definitely an advocate of taking any of your modern, you know, sports or activities and helping you be a better fighter. Yeah. So you're a little too flexible, bro. Yeah. You need a little more craft, a little less heart. Fair. So go ahead. To here. Yeah. So that's good. Okay. Now what I want is isolating it instead of kind of.
So you would check on here and it's more like.
Yes.
You would.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Just strike it low.
Yeah.
That's a great position.
Yeah. It's just like. It's flexible without being flexible. So another way to do that, and this is, so, however I was made, I was the kind of person that was very good at going home and doing drills, sword fighting drills. I could never be a gym rat because it didn't include swords, so I just hated that, right? But it includes swords or how to get better at doing swords. I'm always very motivated to be able to do that kind of thing, right? But the body turn, if you're especially not, who's used to using body turn kind of techniques a little bit? Couple guys a little bit, yeah. Just real quick, it doesn't matter where your feet are. In my school, it does. I just showed you, right? Okay. But if you're doing this style sword shield, right? You can still use your body to hit nice and hard. Right? Yeah, if you're playing 5s and 7s, 5s and 6s, maybe you don't need to. You're a peasant, you're in a tournament, you need to drop it 8.5 or 9. Just use your body. Right? And there's a lot of newer students of our art in the realms that don't understand that. It's like you gotta be perfect in that, that thing, right? So, body turning techniques, very important. What time is it?
5 to 10.
Okay, doing pretty good. Okay, so guard position for swords. Before I get to some of the techniques, I want to talk just a little bit about the philosophy of what guards, how guards can become very tactical. Okay? All right. So if any of you guys are like into watching martial arts movies or whatever, you'll see the two samurai or the Aiki, fighters doing bogans or whatever, because they want to go outside with bogans and stuff. So I might go to Joda, right? Okay. Very, very samurai, very, very kendo, Yaido guard, right? By the way, this would be like almost like high bomb tag or roof, that we call it. And then my opponent, when I go to that high guard, he goes, he was in Chudan, and he goes, oh, and he kind of stretches out, right? Okay? Or whatever he chooses to do, right? And then this guy goes, oh, he made the one move, which is the perfect response to my guard. And all of a sudden he kicked, right? Yeah, right. So this is what I mean by guards are very, very tactical, right? So we use our guard positions to nullify a strength choice of our foe, or we don't because we don't want them to realize that we know what they're really going to do, right? Right? Okay. Now that's a gamble, but the better you get at doing things, the smaller the gamble is, right? Okay. You go on guard, and your opponent takes a guard, and we go. The best of us go. The laser rangefinder has been working. Now it's taking that data and doing all this math and going, here are the new targets. Sometimes moves a bit over here and all that, right? Same idea, right? So this is how we use guards. We use them offensively and defensively. Okay, again, it's a little counterintuitive. It's guard. That's how you defend yourself. Yeah, you can also use it tactically in an offensive way. All right? Okay? So, the first couple guards for the fundamental guards of the school, I'll try to use some of the German terms, but are ox, okay, not ox, plow, and then the German term is Flug, I think, yeah, and then posted the Breva, which nobody usually really talks a lot about in the schools, but it's old school style center guard position right here, right? Okay. So these are the first two that we're gonna do and learn, and then like I said, we'll get into intermediates and stuff later. I think I have 12 or 14 in my school guard positions. And it could be more. I mean, there's a lot of them that the masters have out there. I don't do this one. I'm not sure if my body will even do that in armor, but certainly that, intimidating.
Classic York.
Yeah.
If any of you girls there with
I don't have that myself.
And you need to hit with a 15? I don't know.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
Yeah, by the way, that's why in the West, if you've ever heard of this, out West, pre-2000, this was the guard, right, with it back down process, because the cut had to be a 12. They were regularly getting 12-gauge helmets out there. And if you weren't, you might not take it. Right? That's changed considerably in the West. But yeah, so you pull the elbow down, rotate it over, turn your body, and just blast somebody. And they're probably changing their tan every 4 practices or something, But so let's start with Posta de Breva. That's Fior's term for it. I like to call it mid-guard because it's a middle guard, but I'm also Viking, so it's kind of cool to be mid-guard. It's great. Sometimes the mnemonic, words, the memory things, make up things in your mind that help you remember these things. Because I mean, even me, I've built my school and I have all these techniques, and then I go to fight and I use maybe 15% of them. And then I walk out and I go, why didn't I use all those other ones I was thinking about before I went that guard? I guess there's so many of them. So take that stance, right or left, down, down, whatever you're comfortable with, and then just come straight out, and we're going to have the sword in our center line between our opponent and us, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good. So, see how Edward's point is a little high? You can do that, but I really like a little lower, like you guys had, more in here. Think of it as being like from your eyes through the top of the tip to my eyes.
I was in your eyes.
So this is the breath.
Gotcha.
So basically, you're going to have your hands extended just enough that you've got a fist or two from the pommel into your hip. Okay? You don't want to tuck it too much. See how I tuck it almost all the way? That's too close. I want to have some space in here so when I move. Yeah, exactly. Right, okay? Mid-guard is a guard position that is more defensive and less offensive. Okay? So if I go on guard, mid-guard to David, and I know to fight him, and he's big, and he looks serious, I might go to mid-guard because I want to have a little bit more defensive time to stay alive and observe my opponent. Right, exactly. Oh, and by the way, Breva is here and here.
Yeah.
Right? And also here and here. So it's 4 of them. Okay? So there's 4 guards, or 4 sub-guards in that primary mid-guard. Right? 2 hand high changes and 2 feet changes. Okay? But yeah, so I might go to mid-guard because I'm like, so is he really fast? Oh, he steps over there and swings really fast. It's only to here getting blocked. If I'm on this side of plow, I gotta get way over here. Okay? So, talking about tactics and guards, more defensive, less offensive. It's less offensive because, now, with the one obvious attack advantage in mid-guard is the semi thrust. Right? Okay. So, but everybody knows that. Right? You take mid-guard, second guard position, it's like, okay, I gotta be careful for that face thrust or hard body thrust. But when I'm in Breva, to attack with power, right, I have to wind up and then turn. Right? Okay? Or wind up and then turn. Okay? Or if you're swinging straight down, right? Yeah. Okay. So
You give yourself in the way, so.
post it across. I actually didn't have that in my school until about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, during the pandemic. We were doing some off at Christ and Silverthorne was doing some. He was owning me a lot more than I was happy with, and because he was so fast, strong, fast, you know. And so I was like, I'm gonna go to that like center guard, old school center guard, so that I have more defensive capability. And then I shut that down. That doesn't mean I stopped losing, but I stopped losing at that rate. Right? So that's Pussy Brother. So then we go to plow. Okay. Plow is much more offensive, a little less defensive. Right? So plow is, and also before I get to the exact thing of plow, part of the reason, an additional part of the reason why our hands are soft and supple, right? We were talking about that grip and everything, is when I'm in plow, right? I'm not trying to hold the sword even with that soft grip that we were here on, right? Because I go to here, and if I don't open my hand up, see how that hand is opened up, right? If I don't do that, I can't be plow. I can't go to that guard position. So it's really kind of just on there, just ever so slight. But I'm still able to do what I do with it, right? If only because I got 4 finger and thumb, and then a little bit of help from the other guy. Okay, so this is the first position of the plow or flute.
Okay, Grace, may I ask?
Yeah.
Why is this more offensive?
Right. So, see how your center is open to me. So you're already wound up to swing at me, right? So let's say I'm here and do this or some other guys, right? You are not going to telegraph any kind of spring load.
Yeah.
You're just going to swing with that body turn. Go ahead. Boom. It's done. That's why it's more offensive. It's less defensive.
Is it a step or just a turn?
Well, we'll get to that when we get to cutting.
Yes. Because I'm falling forward here with it.
Yeah, well, do it again.
Is it which? This is the right stance for this.
No, your foot needs to be pointed at me. The front foot should always point at your opponent.
Okay.
Okay? Yeah. Yeah. So take a little. Here, try this. Yeah. I'll go ahead.
So the arms are crossed and left.
Arms
You don't have to hold down and see it
Yeah.
straight.
So you can unwind this arm.
Yeah.
He's a blacksmith.
We'll get to this one.
You're right.
And
Just letting that snap.
Yeah.
See how the hand open up?
Okay. Yeah. And then from here.
So go ahead. Do a little pop. Yeah.
He's coming out the top hand.
There.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So
you're leaning
it's-
forward a little bit, which is why you're coming off balance too.
Okay.
Okay.
It's on the other hand.
That's not
Yeah, so we'll get to this really specifically when we get into cutting, which is after the break. But there's 3 styles of cutting that we use for this school. There's cutting with the hands, okay, meaning, right, just use my hands, right? And so you just said we had to turn our body. Yeah, everything changes, man. As we get into advance, everything gets modified. Right, exactly. There's cutting with the body, and there's cutting with the feet. Okay, and we'll get to that, in much more detail.
I didn't mean to go to the track, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So here, you're gonna enjoy that. By the way, when you have a really big hill and you're trying to take that guard, it's super hard. You gotta, now you're pushed out forward because your arm can only go so far back, right? You're here, that's a whole different story. If you're here, it's a whole different story, right?
I'll trade you a took this.
So,
Keep using that because it has that weight. That way your hands are.
So why plow is less defensive is because when I'm here, this is the obvious side you're swinging at.
Yeah.
Right? So we know that, but still, it's if I don't have an intentful purpose to initiate, and I go to plow, it's because I'm just not paying attention. And now I have to make a quick block, we're not in range, right? Or I have to be really good at going, I know what he's going to do, right? And we'll get to a lot of these things later. But this side is open. If I come over here, now that side's open. That's why it's less defensive. Okay?
Thank you.
So when we're doing plow, come here. Okay? Point is in front of us, just like I was saying earlier with Edward. Right? Okay. Yeah. Let's do high, Alex. There you go. Yeah. Good. Too tall, taller.
Was it 2 6 4?
So, get down. See, relax.
Not that first.
So his hands like this. But you're not going to walk with our hands when you do that. It's not.
Keeping one picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So this is,
Yeah.
is it something like anti-.
Put your bottom hand closer to the palm. Yeah. If you guys are looking for new dogs or have students that are kind of getting involved in Longsword work or pulling, anything that needs decent hand protection, Craig Nadler right now, in my opinion, has like the best pair of heat-treated, somewhat lighter. I mean, they're not. What Red is, I think, they're like $1,400 for the fly right now, something heinous like that. Nadler, I think, is at $299.
Could you post that on the page?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like, $200 to live.
They're small on mine. I mean, they're one size larger.
He's taking some absolute blast, so.
Yeah. So
Yeah, someone else wants.
Yeah. 209. You said?
208 after shipping.
Yeah.
And they come from California.
Well, that's just segues back to my comment about Hema and Longsword, and they're putting all this armor back, so they're hitting each other with more power. But yeah, they're like $299, and they're really nice for that.
Yeah.
So a little bit of terminology discussion real quick. When we talk. So this is kind of fundamentally interesting for me from an etymological viewpoint. But I always grew up in Japan as you have to make blocks, learn how to block, learn how to use your shield as block, or sword, learn how to use your sword as block, right? And then you get in a say rapier or a cut and thrust, and they never use that term. It's always parry, right? Yeah, and for fundamentally really good reasons, right? So, the point I'm driving to is, in your headspace, I want you all to understand that in this school, there is blocks, which we're going to get to in a minute, right? And there are also parries. Okay, so there's both.
They do both things.
Blocks are defined as a technique to receive the attack of your opponent's weapon and you keep it from hitting you. That's what a block is. So all it's doing, I don't want to get hit by that thing. Okay? That's all a block is. And that's fundamentally a really good thing, right? A parry is using your weapon to manipulate your opponent's weapon in a way which keeps it from hitting you, and with a fairly good percentage, give you a chance to immediately hit them back, right? So obviously, are you guys do fencing or rapier at some level, right? Yeah. So when he thrusts, I parry and then thrust. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. Blocking. You've seen me show it a little bit already, and we're gonna pair up. So yeah, hopefully everybody's got going on here. Daniel, so what's your name? Dale. Daniel, but they don't know y'all, and that's fine. Daniel, so we're gonna start. So the way this drill works, right? So the first drill we did was the body turning drill, where we're kind of doing that weird dance for body turning. Okay, that was pretty straightforward. There was no attacker and defender. Okay, this drill is going to be an attacker and a defender. Why? Because we're practicing blocking. We don't care about the cuts or perfection of the cuts or what the attacker's doing, with a couple minor exceptions. The first one is, if you're the attacker, you are not trying to win. Okay? Because that always happens. Oh, I'm trying to make him block better, so I'm going to do all kinds of crazy things. Yeah, no, that's not the point of this drill. That can be a point of a drill. Right? And in fact, will after lunch. But this particular aspect is the attacker is in charge of two things. The attacker is in charge of starting the movement because he's attacking. Right? They are responsible to present the cut directly to the target with the defined speed that the teacher or the sensei has told them to use. This particular one is quarter or half speed. Okay? Alright? Does everybody understand quarter or half speed here? Right? Okay. That means pretty slow. Okay? And it also is responsible for the attacker to sort of be the mirror for the defender. Right? So if I'm the defender, Jamie's the attacker, and I need to do this block. So we're doing head, right? Lead head. And I don't care what guard you're using, right? And I do this, and I miss the block. You don't hit me and say, hey, you've got to turn your body more and get that point over, and you're going to miss that block.
They're the safety net.
Huh?
They're the safety net.
They're not only the safety net, they are the short-term teacher, i.e. the mirror, right? We're partners in this, okay? Then we change, and I'll say, okay, the attackers now are the defenders, okay? Fundamentally in school, this becomes what we call the attack-defense drill, okay? You can do attack-defense drill at quarter half speed, at full speed, in armor, out of armor, for any reasons. Hey, Duke so-and-so out west showed me this crazy counterintuitive body twisty thing that I tried on the pedal, and I think I have it, but I'm not sure. But I want to try it. Does this sound familiar? Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Right. Yeah. So you're like, hey, I want to try that in full armor against a fully armored foe, but I want to practice it. So this is what I'm going to practice, Jamie. And if you want to show me how to block it or suggest how to block it, that'd be cool too. Because the point here is the attacker is trying to figure out how to do something with less mind. Right? You guys know no mind versus too many mind? You ever heard too many mind? Yeah, okay, all right. So we do it on the pedal, we do it on the pedal, we do it on the pedal, we get pretty good on the pedal. The pedal is a thing that is, static and doesn't hate us. At least not fundamentally. But we go out and we go, okay, I think I know the thing. And I go out and I go, okay, I'm going to do this against Frederick. And I go into this move and he snatches my head and I go, what did I do wrong? Right? Oh, yeah, I think I know what to do. Yes, let's keep fighting. So I try it again and he takes my leg. What am I doing wrong? Well, what you're doing wrong is you're so in your mind and trying to make sure you're doing it against the foe correctly that you have no defense, you're trying not to move your feet, you're not paying attention to anything other than in your head do this move, and therefore it's the weakest move ever. Right? So attack defense drill. Okay? So we're gonna pair off. Basically what I want you guys to do is the blocks, the guy defending is gonna do these blocks. We're gonna start with the right, and it's lead head, turn head, right? We rotate our body and we come up like that. Yeah. Yeah. So that's probably higher than it needs to be, especially for a short guy. Relax, buddy. Relax. Yeah. Yeah, that's way too much. Sit here, see how it's open? And see how I'm going to use this drill. I do this, and you pop this one here. I tuck it, and you make it short. Okay. So, yeah. So stand. Yeah. You? Yeah.
We want the edge towards the block. Edge
Yeah, I'll talk flats in a while. Yeah, I'm fundamentally it should be on flat. Getting there and all that stuff, right? So what Wilhelm was just doing as the attacker for Landhold was this. Okay? Now, fundamentally, that's a good block, right? But if he hadn't made that block, why did he even bother making the block? Okay? Because you were swinging to be so safe that it really wasn't showing the defender the proper necessity of the technique. Okay? So fundamentally, if you don't understand, I know a lot of us know me so well that if I'm here, I'm going to miss you unless I step. If I'm here, I'm going to hit you, right? If I'm here, I'm going to hit you, but I have to do something obviously different, right? But if you're not sure of your range, or you pick up a new sword, or a longer sword, or a shorter sword, or whatever, you do what I call ranging, right? We do this, or you should do this on a pedal all the time, right? When you're a new student, when you got a different weapon, I come up to it, got the sword, I go to my pedal, and I go, that's my range. Yeah, and that's the block, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So a couple fundamental observations. We want to always keep our point in front of us when we block. Remember that center. Okay. Right? Okay. Right? Here. I don't think we need to go to plow, but plow would be, right, if I'm here and Springer's got to hit me on this side, and I have to hit this guy in the head, right, I just have to lift the sword. I'm already strong. That's why on this side it's very defensive, on this side it's not. Okay? Alright? If we lose the center control position, does that make sense for everybody? You lose center control when your point goes off of that imaginary line between you and your opponent. Right? Now, change. That line is a lot line. Say it's actually that gets in there. That's going to be the advanced stuff. But the point should stay in front of us. Also, when we make blocks, remember, blocks are just, we're receiving our points attack. The nature of, the nature of, so there's high blocks, right? High, shoulders up, right? And these are just for the verticals, excuse me, the angle obliques and the horizontals, right? Because we're going to get to the straight downs in a minute here. But there's these targets, right? And then there's kind of hip up, right? So if he's swinging at my head, I'm here, right? And here, right? If he's swinging at, so I don't block this way, head, I don't do that. I mean, you do whatever you can to get your cut of the dog, right? But that's on the full, the weak, right? And when you swing an eight, I probably just lost, right? So I've got to be higher. I'm going to block somewhere in this forward area and be strong, okay? If it's cutting lower, then I have to move my hands lower. Okay, I'm about it, right? But I'm moving my hands lower, right? I'm going to do a break here in a minute, so a couple more things. The nature of combat with long swords, and when I say that, I don't mean just longsword. I mean when I'm using a longsword, the nature of that combat, when we're using SCA rules of contention, right? You hit the leg no matter how well it's armored, in other words, you have to go to your knees, right? Or just call us a point or whatever, however rules are. But generally, we're fighting, very rare that as a longsword fighter, I'm going at anybody's leg, okay? Because that puts my sword well out of my center control, parry block position. Right? Here, bad trade, right? Okay. So I'm going to talk just a teeny bit about some fundamental leg blocks. So I talk high, middle, low. I'm getting in low, okay? So there we go. So the first obvious thing, right, is maybe my head brain on me, right? This is based on my observational skills. So he knows that. Smart, skilled, experienced fighter. He might go for a leg, right? But with 3.5, 4 inches of blade, it probably isn't, because it's still going to be a bad trade, right? But irrespective of that, right? If I'm here, right, and he decides to try to get that real long, extended leg cut, right? The first way you block legs is avoid. You back out. Right? So swing my leg, I back out, right? Okay? Range my leg, yeah. So go ahead. So I back out, right? Okay. Or if you have really good balance and you have really good timing, go ahead. You're still avoid. You're still removing that target, right? I mean, ducks and all that stuff too, right? But generally, sword and shield guys, you got to try to get your leg. Longsword. Generally, you don't have to worry too much about legs because you swing low on the hit your head, right? And see it rules. If it was battlefield, you swing low. I'm really out there, right? I mean, if I'm only wearing mail, right, and hard leather cops on the battlefield, I probably don't want to fight him. Right? I'm like, hey, where are my buds? Where's the archers? Right? There's always this static block, which I'm not really a fan of, but I'll show you. Go ahead and swing my leg. Right? So there's that block. But the problem with this block, the problem with this block is that, first of all, if you know I'm going to use that block, he backs up and then as he swings low, it's a feint, and it hits him in the head. Right? You can't lift, you can't do anything with that. You've seriously, eliminated yourself at some point. Right? In my school, it's basically don't be there. Right? But I'll show you some of the other alternatives. There's also a thing called scabbard disorder, which is swinging my leg. Look, I do that. It's scabbard because as I lift, I rotate here and then I drive it down. Right? That's not really a longsword, heavy longsword technique. It's more like a saber technique, or a rapier technique.
I do that against Lily. How did you do? What did you do with hand?
Well, lift up and then push the bottom hand around so the point goes down. Yeah, and then let go of the bottom hand. Yeah. So then since the count brought it up, you don't be there, or you do a strike parry. Right? So it's not a block, it's a strike parry because you're manipulating your opponent's sword. You're not just receiving, right? So literally, swings my leg, right? I do that, and then now that was the whole technique. We'll get into how we strike those and all that stuff later. Now it's all. Including going. Put a little bait on there. So that's where I wanted to go for right now for time. Everybody pretty good with blocks and kind of understand. The thing about any sword fighting, the thing about any martial art is the fundamental basic skills and techniques. If you understand them so well in your mind and you are able to just do them with perfection, right? You become a very good fighter, right? Because the fundamentals is where everything else comes from. So if you have really good fundamentals, then you're going to become a very good fighter. Yeah, then there's all the other adder pieces, right? But a lot of guys, especially in our martial art, because guys don't have to pay, right? They have an expectation of fun, not an expectation of getting good, right? I mean, how many fighters we have, fighters in there like, man, I need to get serious. I was trying to tell you that at 6 months, bro. Right? But cool, now you finally got it. You really have the nature of that those fundamental skills and lessons are only going to be, it's not like I got a dojo and I'm charging $70 a month, or that's what it used to be, it's probably $120 now or something, but and the students who are paying for that $120 a month come whenever you want, right? The serious student comes 3 times a week and gets fundamental. Reinforcement of the fundamental. Doesn't get anything else until the fundamentals are good enough that they can learn the next technique because their fundamental is strong enough that they can learn the next technique and do it more closely, be more apt to do it more closely to being correct because it's coming from a strong fundamental base, right? So how do we do that in the SCA, including me, including you, including Jamie, Knights, everybody else here? You got to do it at home, right? Okay. Or you ask Reinhold if he's Baroness. You would say, hey, do we run a half-hour drills class every practice? And then you're gonna be like, oh yeah, and then 2 guys will show up, you know, or whatever. Okay. But anyway, this stuff needs to be done. The more you do drills at home to lock them in, you know, like Musashi says, do 1,000 cuts. You start to understand how to cut. Right? Okay. Right. Okay.